Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Two Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. Two easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got author, journalist, legendary sports talk show host, Ann Liguori with me. So welcome, Ann.
Hey, Michael. Great to be with you.
You know, we were talking offline just about my son and I and how we got started in the podcast. Well, you know, the interviews that I do, I really try to just have a conversation. I just try to see where it goes. You know, I might guide it a little bit. I might have some things I want to touch on, but I really just try to have a conversation. And when we started, you know, part of the reason that I wanted to do that is because I grew up watching, you know, these great interviewers, these great broadcasters and sportscasters. And I always like the ones that do that have that don't just kind of ask the same questions all the time. They just have a conversation. And you do that. You know, I've watched Sports Interview most of my life. I love it. And I've stolen a little bit of your interviewing style because that's what I want to do. I just want to have that conversation. So I wanted to mention that before we got started.
That's wonderful, Michael. Thanks for sharing that. I'm just so glad that you watched Sports Interview because it aired, for a long time. It aired for 17 years. And I started it when I was in my late 20s and had the opportunity to interview all these legends like Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron and Will Chamberlain and Ted Williams. And I mean, the list goes on, but it aired a while ago. So I'm glad you're in that club, Michael, who watched it.
Well, you know, I grew up a baseball fan. My dad was a basketball coach, high school basketball coach, but I grew up loving baseball. So that's how I started, you know, some of those interviews you did with former players. But, you know, usually those of us that like one sport, we love all the rest of them too. So, you know, it kind of my interest grew over time. But yeah, I always loved the way you did those interviews, and obviously it had an effect on me. I didn't know it, but here I am.
I love it. Well, thank you very much. You know, the person who had an effect on me, I was 3 years old in Cincinnati, Ohio, watching this woman named Ruth Lyons. She had kind of silverish hair, and she was a host of a variety show. She was very talented. She sang, she played the piano, and she interviewed the most fascinating people who came through Cincinnati. And can you imagine? I remembered her. My mother must have had me in a high chair watching this show. It was on during lunch.
Yep.
And you know, that's my earliest recollection of what I wanted to do. I just remember this woman interviewing people. And ever since then, that's all I wanted to do. So it's amazing the impact that adults have on even toddlers.
Yeah.
And I can't even believe I remembered that when I was 3, but I'm doing what I've wanted to do since I was 3 years old.
I absolutely love that. Good for you, because it doesn't always work out that way.
I know. I'm still doing it too, and I'm much older than 3.
Well, let's start let's start there, Ann. Talk a little bit about what got you into that line of work, because that can be a difficult profession, especially if you're starting back, you know, with radio. You know, not exactly most people working in radio didn't exactly have this, incredible lifestyle. They're struggling. You know, most of them. So what got you into that, and what made you want to go into that? Did you play sports in high school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from a very humble background. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My parents were college professors. My father taught at the University of Cincinnati and just had that sparkle in his eye, bright blue eyes, big smile, really connected with his students and everybody, really. Just wonderful role model. Unfortunately, I lost him when I was in college to cancer. My mother, she lived to be 95,
Wow.
and she grew up in Pennsylvania, really with nothing. I mean, her parents were German immigrants, and she was the only one in her family to get her college degree, and she went on to get her master's, and she raised 4 children as well. So she was a
Wow.
college professor and a mom. And she was really, both my parents were my heroes. And they encouraged me, even at a time when girls back then, I grew up in the 60s and early 70s, we weren't really encouraged to pursue sports.
Yeah.
My parents encouraged me and would drive me to, I would organize tennis tournaments, and they'd drive me to tennis tournaments all over Northeastern Ohio. And they basically said I could do anything I wanted to do, put my mind to, and work hard enough to do it. But back then, there was not even a girls' tennis team in my high school.
Right.
I had to play on the boys' team. And by my senior year, I played #1 singles on the boys' tennis team. And
Amazing.
I earned 16 varsity letters, a different sport every season. And then in the spring, I doubled, I ran for the girls' track team and played on the boys' tennis team. So I was really athletic. I had an
Amazing.
older brother
Yep.
who he was only a year and some months older than me, but we lost him at only 22. He
Oh,
passed away of leukemia. But when we were growing up, everything that Jim wanted to do athletically, I wanted to do.
of course.
So we were so close in age. And so all the kids in the neighborhood would come over to our backyard in Ohio and play sports. And oftentimes, because I was a naturally gifted athlete, I was the first one picked for football or softball or
Yep.
soccer or whatever. So I grew up as an athlete. And I thank my brother, my older brother Jim, and my dad and mom for encouraging me to pursue sports. And it was at a time when there weren't opportunities for female
That's
athletes,
right.
not where I was, living at the time. And then obviously when I got into broadcasting, I wanted to pursue sports broadcasting. And that was a difficult journey as well, particularly when I started in the early 80s. After I graduated from USF, I went right to Manhattan. And hello, I've arrived. Most expensive city in the world, had no friends, no money, and nothing when I moved to New York
Yep.
City. So my background really started as a very humble background.
Yeah, I love that whole story, and I know you went to WFAN New York and worked, and you had the one of those very early call-in talk shows that back in the day everybody loved those shows if you were a sports fan, and getting to call in and actually making it on air, that was a big deal to a lot of people.
Yeah. Did
But
you
you were
ever
like
call in?
you were the only. Oh, I called in. I didn't call into yours, but the local ones we had here, of course,
Sure.
of
I
course.
love it. Well,
Yeah.
yes, in 1987, WFAN was the first all sports radio station, 24-hour sports. Nobody thought it would work. If I had a nickel for everybody who said, "No, Ann, are you kidding me? That's not going to work." And at the time, I was at ABC Radio Sports Network, covering every team in New York as a freelancer. I
Oh,
was,
yeah.
sending in interviews with the players. One night it was with the Yankees, the next night the Mets, then it was Knicks, Nets, and football
Well, that's not
Giants and
terrible either.
Jets. So I was every night I was I worked as a stringer, freelance stringer for ABC Radio Sports Network. And then that was before FAN started. And then when WFAN started, they hired me to host a call-in sports talk show, and it was called Hey Liguori, What's the Story?
I know it's the best name ever for a call-in show.
That's great. And so, yeah, that show aired for 25 years. It was once a week, mostly on the overnights, Friday into Saturday. I did have some morning shows and then some late, like Sunday night shows from 10 to 1. But that was a great show. I mean, we had so much fun, and 25 years of hosting that, Michael. And
That's a
I had to
run.
watch every game, which I enjoyed. I had to really know what I was talking about, watching the Yankees game, watching the Mets, whatever, so I could answer the questions from our callers. But at the same time, I was one of the originals on the Golf Channel. And then I was also doing another show, this TV interview that you said you watched, with interviewing people like Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams and Jimmy Connors and different personalities, Sam Snead. And so I was juggling so many different shows that finally, after 25 years of doing Hey Liguori, What's the Story? I said, that's enough. I'm traveling all over doing these TV shows now. And then fast forward for years, I approached WFAN to ask if I could do a golf show.
Yeah.
And they said, of course. And so lo and behold, I've been hosting Talking Golf on Sunday mornings on WFAN from 7 to 8, from April to September now for the past 8 years. So we're in our 8th season, and I just did 2 Talking Golf shows from the Masters.
Yeah. I saw that you just started up your 8th season. And I assumed that was because the Masters had come along. Did you tear up when he was walking to the clubhouse?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think first I had heart failure.
Well, he did his best to make it interesting.
I'm telling you. I mean, Rory, I've been covering Rory's career from the beginning, and oh my gosh, he was so overdue. With as much talent as he has, with the kind of shots that he can hit, as you saw on Sunday. But he was so nervous, Michael. And so you saw a roller coaster of brilliant shots mixed with some of the worst shots you'll ever see him hit or anybody hit. And a lot of luck, too. He had a lot of luck on Sunday, and you need some of that luck to win these championships, right. No doubt, in golf. And so I was so thrilled for him that he finally triumphed and joined this very prestigious club of only 6 people now. He was the 6th to win a career Grand Slam. So it was emotional.
The toughest time to get in there.
So what did you say?
He arguably had the toughest time to join that group.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he had 11 years since winning a major, and he won 4 before, and he was waiting and collapsing. He had many times in championships, particularly the 2011 Masters. He was up by 4 shots and just blew it. And so every time he came back to the Masters, he knew for 11 years that if he won it, that would capture the career Grand Slam. So he had so much pressure. He put so much pressure and expectation on his shoulders, as the whole world did who follows golf. And what a relief. He finally was able to do it, but it wasn't easy. I mean,
no.
He told everybody afterwards that it was really a battle between Rory himself against himself. And he was really battling his own demons and his own nerves, but he, thank goodness, pulled it out.
Yeah, I know. I think everybody was rooting for him. It was fun to watch with that. I was at the U.S. Open last year when he had a run at that and kind of faltered there at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
And who else to play with but Bryson DeChambeau? I'm sure he didn't really want that pairing, because Bryson beat him at the U.S. Open in Pinehurst in 2024. But he stayed focused, tunnel vision. He didn't talk to Bryson at all. And, a lot of people have commented on that. But look, if you're trying to do what Rory was trying to do, you just don't talk to him. You have to be so focused on what you're doing. And he was focused, and it still was very difficult for him. It was really the toughest round he'd ever played.
Yeah. Well, it was amazing to watch. Are you working the PGA this year?
Yes, I try to go to all the majors, so I will be in Charlotte. And look, the sky's the limit now for Rory. He's won there a bunch of times, Quill Hollow, and he's free. He is free.
Well, I do you think he goes on a run now that he's kind of got that off his back?
I do.
Yeah,
I really do. At least in the major championships, yes. I mean, you have Quail Hollow, where he's won many, many times. He's so familiar with that course. He has such great muscle memory and a mental capacity there. And then, the Open Championship is in Northern Ireland, where he's from, at Royal Portrush. And his dearest friend, Shane Lowry, won it when it was there, 5 or 6 years ago. So, yeah, Rory has the potential of continuing on.
Yeah.
I think he'll win a lot more majors in the future. I'm not saying maybe this year, but perhaps. I mean, he is so talented, and now he's going to play with so much confidence and so freer. And those nerves, look, he's already accomplished his big dream, winning the career Grand Slam. So anything else, I think, to him at this point would be gravy. That is a real liberating feeling, Michael, when you don't have those nerves and those expectations, when you've already accomplished, really the most incredible feat.
That's right.
And
yeah, it
so
takes
now,
a lot of pressure off, because you can do it if you have
exactly,
to.
exactly. Yeah. So I think he's going to really continue on here for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm taking, my brother and I are taking my dad to PGA.
Oh, we'll have to meet down there and say hello.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I'll have to keep an eye out for you. We this will be our 15th tournament. And it's for Dad. He's 85, still shoots below his age. He's still pretty good golfer. Had shoulder surgery a couple years ago, so he couldn't get to golf last year, but he's already been out there this year, doing good. So
I love it. Well, I'd love to meet your dad as well. So we'll
I'll
definitely
keep
have
an
to
eye out
connect
for
at the
you.
PGA Championship.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for you. Yeah, I asked him, because we thought about the Open this year as well, but he's never been to Quail Hollow, so that's one he wanted to go to. So we're grabbing it.
You'll love it.
We had to take our act on the road when the Greenbrier stopped having tournaments.
Oh, right. I love the Greenbrier.
We do
love
too.
it.
That's still our favorite. Those early 2010 tournaments, at the Greenbrier were. It was just beautiful. I mean, the course was great. They had good competition. Early on they may have had the course a little light, but they toughened it up as the years went on. But
that is a very special place. I love it there. I really do. Well, you'll have to go to Oakmont, though, where the U.S. Open is. That's not that far from where you are.
Well, let's see. It was Oakmont. That's this year's, right?
Oakmont. Outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. We thought about that. That's. I assumed he would want to go to that, but no, he chose PGA this time. I was like, we can go to that one, but okay. I was like, okay, it's before where we go to a couple in a year. Now one a year, that's enough.
Yeah. That'll be fine. Believe me. There's a lot of activity. It's a lot of excitement, to really take it in like it's meant to be taken in. It takes a lot of energy.
Takes a lot of energy. That's right. So you've got a new book out, Life on the Green, Lessons and Wisdoms from the Legends of Golf, which I love. And you picked some good golfers in there.
Thank you. I did. It's really, I'm so proud of this book, Michael. Hatherley Press asked me if I would write a golf book. I could have written a book on all these greats in baseball and football and basketball and the Olympics and hockey and tennis that I've interviewed through the years, but they asked me to write a golf book, and I said, I can do that. And so I picked 12 legends. I picked 6 men and 6 women, all Hall of Famers, all in history, just some of the biggest legends in sports. And
how'd you make your choices? How'd you make your choices?
Interesting question. I wanted to get role models. I wanted to get personalities that I knew would have a lot of wisdom to share. So they're older. So I have Jack Nicklaus, I have Gary Player, I have Tom Watson, Bernhard Langer, who just played in his final Masters after 41 Masters.
Amazing.
I got Tom Watson. I got Padraig Harrington, who I just love. I just think he has so much to say. And Ben Crenshaw. And with the women, Renee Powell, Annika Sorenstam, Nancy Lopez, Jan Stevenson, Amy Alcott, and Dottie Pepper. And I just really wanted
those minor players.
I know, right? I just really wanted to go with great role models who would be very willing to share their success stories and what they learned from golf that they use in their day-to-day life. And they all were just incredible with that. They all were so willing to share great stories and great wisdom. And they all thanked me for including them in the book, which is incredible. It just shows you how incredible they are as people. So it was not hard to pick these 12. I could have picked maybe 14 or 16, but we thought we'd make it an even dozen.
Yeah.
And I am thrilled with the 12 legends that are in the book.
Yeah. You did such a great job on the choices. That's a really good. Going through it, like Annika, she there was that time where she was really looking to compete against some of the men on the tour, and I think maybe could have. I know she did a couple of events, but like if she had just put her mind to it and said, I'm going to be on the tour, she'd have probably done okay.
Right. Well, she did play in one PJ Tour event, and that made so many headlines back in the day.
It did.
And that was huge. I mean, Babe Zaharias Digderson, she had, did that years ago, but didn't get really that much attention. I mean, she was just incredible. I'd love, everybody asked me, who would you have, who would you like to interview or would have interviewed if you could interview anybody? And I say the two Babes, Babe Zaharias and Babe Ruth, because I just find their history so fascinating. But yeah, Annika is just the epitome of giving back in golf. And she told this great story when she was a kid, Michael. She was on the driving range in Sweden, and all these other kids were playing and practicing, and it started to rain. And so she called her father up. She said, Dad, come pick me up. And he came to pick her up. It was pouring down rain, but all these other kids were still on the range. And Annika's driving by, and her father said, that's your competition. And he started talking about work ethic. And she said, oh my God, my heart just dropped. Here, my father's questioning my work ethic. And ever since then, she said, she stayed out there in all kinds of conditions for hours practicing. And obviously, she's Annika Sorenstam. It certainly paid off.
Yeah. She was, and she maintained that level for a long time, and that's not easy to do.
She certainly did. She played for a long time and won so many major championships and tournaments. And then now, even retired, she's plays in these celebrity tournaments where she's competing against these pro male athletes from baseball and football, and she's beating them.
Oh yeah.
Handily,
it doesn't surprise
right?
me
And
at all.
she's winning a lot of these tournaments. And of course, she came back and won the U.S. Senior Women's Open by 8 shots, if I remember correctly, a couple years back. So she can still play when she puts her mind to it. She's doing so many things, running her foundation and her clothing line, and she has a great family, and I mean, just so many her own tournaments, but she can still play when she puts her mind to it.
Yeah, amazing. And doesn't surprise me. Yeah, she was such a great athlete. I love the Nancy Lopez talking about playing happy golf. I love that.
Yeah. Nancy Lopez. I saw Annika at the Masters. I saw most of the people in the book just recently at Augusta National. And Nancy is so amazing. She's always there on the weekend of the Augusta National Women's Amateur on Saturday, and then on Sunday for the drive, chip, and putt national finals. And she's encouraging the girls and the boys who are there that weekend. And she has so many positive messages, Michael. I mean, play happy golf. Don't get down on yourself. Don't lose your temper. Don't think about the bad shot you just hit. You have to stay in the present and just be positive. I mean, that sounds kind of cliche, but it's so hard to do, even beyond golf. You might have a bad day at the office, or you might have something go sideways in your personal life, but stay positive. Think of all the good things in your life. And it's hard to do, but it's hard such in life. Factor.
It's definitely hard on a golf course.
Oh,
golf is so frustrating.
Golf is such a difficult sport. It is such a mental sport. And as Gary Player always says, whoever wins these championships, it's really a mental game. And you really have to really be so strong as we saw Rory battling, with himself. It's one of the toughest sports of all. You played what, baseball and
Yeah.
other sports when you were a
Yeah.
kid. Golf is, you could be a great athlete, and then all of a sudden you hit a really great shot. The very next shot, it's just so humbling. You just hit a terrible shot, so it's a very tough sport. I don't think people who don't play it might not realize how tough it is to hit a stationary ball.
There was when my wife and I first got together, we took our dads to golf, and I don't golf. But I did try at one time. So I made the attempt. I was by far the worst of the foursome on the golf course. It was so, like now I'm older. I can go out there and it doesn't matter. But when I was younger, kind of competitive, it was so
Sure.
frustrating. And
Yeah.
I had the worst time out there.
Oh,
And this is the first time that I'd been on a golf course in a few years. The few years before that, when I went, I was holding the club so tight that it just ripped my hands up.
wow.
I just had just awful. So those were my two experiences. I was like, okay, golf's not my
You
sport.
have to take lessons, Michael.
Well, I know. I gave up too easily.
Yeah, you have to
With
take
that.
lessons. There's a proper technique, and then just practice. I'm sure you would be a
Practice is
very
the
good
main
golfer
thing.
if you really wanted to.
That's it. That's it. I just gave up too easy. So to make up for that, I take Dad to the tournaments every year.
Oh, I love it. And you watch him shoot low 80s, which
Well,
is
yeah,
incredible.
he can still play. So I'm like, okay.
That's awesome.
Well, and he's got, my kids, my brother's kids, they all play golf with him. So he's fine.
He has enough golf. It's a great bonding opportunity too, right? I mean, just to spend that whole afternoon out with,
Yes.
your kids or your grandkids or your spouse. I mean, there's nothing like it, but you have to stay positive. You have to keep smiling and forget about the bad shots.
That's it. Yeah, you got to just keep moving forward. I wanted to bring up, you talk about Tom Watson and his not liking links golf, which I thought was kind of hilarious since he's like the links golf guy.
I know. And obviously went on to win so many British Open championships. They call them Open championships, technically, not British Open championships. But he started out not liking to deal with the rain and the wind and all these elements that you get in the UK, whether it's Ireland or Scotland or Wales, or he did not like it. He kind of grew into it, obviously, because he started playing really well and he got used to it. But initially it was not for him. And now he loves it. I mean, but yeah, when you go over there, you don't know. They say in Ireland, you have 6 seasons in a day, which is very real. I have the opportunity to go to Ireland a lot to do radio programs and TV shows promoting these links courses and parkland courses in Ireland. And they're just so hospitable, and it's just a great golf destination. And but yeah, sometimes particularly with the camera crew, if it starts raining, we have to wait. And then, 10 minutes later, the sun comes out. So, and the wind is challenging as well, but that's what makes it the Open Championship. And if you are, flexible enough and well-versed enough and talented and skilled enough to handle not only the golf courses, but all the elements, then you're truly, playing the best. I mean, to win an Open Championship is very, very tough. And Tom Watson's won so many of them. He certainly now is used to those conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if I remember right, it wasn't that long ago. He was still playing really well there.
Oh yeah. He was. I mean, yeah, just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to win it, and he almost did.
Yeah. He faded a little right at the end, but I mean, still pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, now you see him hitting the honorary tee shot along with Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player on the Thursday to kick off the Masters, and they all can still hit the ball.
Yeah.
Boy, how old is Tom Watson now? late 70s.
Yeah.
Of course, Jack Nicklaus, late 80s.
I mean, that's part of the
Gary,
reason golf's so great is you can play it forever.
right? Gary Player is going to be 90 and he still plays every day. Of course, he
Amazing.
does sit-ups and push-ups every day too, and he still lifts weights. He's a big advocate for being in the gym and pumping iron and keeping your body strong and conditioned. He told me that Rory McIlroy pumps 400 pounds, which is crazy. But
Goodness.
yeah,
Yeah,
these
that's
guys,
strong.
and you look like Bernhard, you look at somebody like Bernhard Langer, who is 67, and he played in his final Masters 41, but he'll continue to play the Champions Tour. And he wins. He's won so
Yeah.
many. He holds a record of winning more senior titles than anybody. But they all take care of themselves. They eat well, they exercise, they practice. They still have that hunger, Michael. It's a lot of it's, that motivation and that hunger to travel as much as they do and to work out and to be disciplined and to go and practice. They have that hunger and that passion to continue to do it. And that's one of the messages in the book as well. Gary Player's chapter is all about passion. You have to do what you love to do. You're doing it so much. You're working, 24/7, or, we spend a lot of time at work. You have to really love what you do. I know a lot of people don't love what they do. If you can really love what you do, you'll be so much happier, right? And Gary preaches that in his chapter in Life on the Green. And he is a, walking billboard of being passionate about so many things.
He really is. Like, I always love when he shows up on screen because he's always dropping some type of little tidbit.
That's right. All kinds of
useful.
nuggets.
Yeah.
Well, his title of his chapter is "Have a Lifelong Passion for What You Do and Have Love in Your Heart." So anytime I talk to Gary Player, he's mesmerizing because he has so much wisdom. As I say, he's going to be 90 years old in November. And he just loves to share his wisdom. And I love listening to him. That press conference of the honorary starters at the Masters with Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Tom Watson is one of my favorite moments of all in the Masters schedule. Just listening to all three of these legends talk about life and talk about their careers and their success stories. It's just fascinating to me. And one of the best moments I feel in all of sport, and I've covered all sports, as you know, is under the big oak tree right by the Augusta National Clubhouse when all three of those legends, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Tom Watson, walk out with their caddies to go to the first tee to hit those honorary tee shots. And I normally, if I can, stand next to legendary broadcaster Jim Nantz, and he wrote the foreword to my book. Just so grateful to Jim Nantz that he's, wrote a couple pages about the book and about myself. And I stand next to him, catch up with him, and we watch these three legendary golfers walk by us, and everybody claps, and it's just so special.
Well, and they're all pretty close, right? I mean, they've known each other for decades.
Oh yeah. I mean, you talk about they were rivals with each other and then, best of friends with each other.
Yeah.
And it goes into a lot of that detail in the book. But yeah, especially Jack and Tom Watson. Tom used to idolize Jack. And one of his messages in his chapter, his chapter is titled "Learn from the Best, Stay Humble, and Stay in the Present." And Tom says that when he was younger, he would watch Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and Byron Nelson on the range and study how they interacted with others and how they hit the club and what they did at these tournaments. And Tom really advocates getting mentors and learning from the best. And he did. And then he started competing against Jack and beating him. And they would, they'd go back and forth. So they had a great rivalry through the years. And, they became best of friends. So I love those stories. All those details are in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Just terrific. And the chapter you did with Jan, it got me thinking a little bit too. And you were such an athlete growing up. I was curious what you thought about that, because women's sports having a little bit of a moment right now, long overdue. But what do you think about that? We're finally seeing some of the pro sports embrace women as far as the fans are concerned. We still have a big pay discrepancy with that. Like, I was seeing some of WNBA just had their draft, and they're talking about their players signing to play in the 3-on-3 leagues and the unrivaled leagues, and they're making more money there than they'll make in the WNBA, which is ridiculous. But I'm just curious what you thought about that as far as women's sports.
It's certainly come a long way since I was an athlete, and women in sports broadcasting has certainly come a long way since I started back in the 80s. But I had the opportunity to walk alongside Caitlin Clark when she played in the Annika tournament, an LPGA event on the west coast of Florida in November, I think it was. And, Caitlin loves golf. She gets a lot of great invitations. She's busy playing basketball, obviously, but when she can squeeze them in, she tries to play. She's been taking lessons from an LPGA pro, but just what she has done, and just unbelievable that how she popularized basketball. And the ratings when she played in college were bigger than the guy ratings. And then she gets to the WNBA, and they don't make any money. I'm sure she makes a ton of endorsement money.
I'm sure.
But they make a lot more money than they did when they first started. Let's put it that way. So they're not going to be equal like right off the bat. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But I guess I've been around so long, Michael, that I've seen the disparity so wide. And now I see a lot of progress. So I do believe that, now it's going to, the women's sports and the earnings, and obviously the sponsorships are coming in, for not only basketball, for LPGA and for other sports.
Well, we're starting to see some of those sports on TV, and they've been hard to find on TV in the past.
Exactly. It's improving because I have a lot to compare it to.
Yeah.
And it's improving quickly. It's still not overall where it needs to be, but it is improving. So I stay optimistic because I've seen such progress because I've been at this for a long time. But a lot of the younger women who are in it now say, oh my God, the disparity is just crazy. It's not good. But it will get there. I do believe it will get there because the progress that women's sports has made in just the last 5 years has been remarkable.
Oh, it's been fun to watch, but it's been really incredible. I saw a new softball league starting up.
Oh man, I love that.
Next year,
and some of the athletes that are doing the best in college from a licensing standpoint are women. So they're making tons of money now with these licensing fees. So that's all changed. It's also very, very different. So they're all going to do great. They're doing so much better than what 10, 20 years ago.
That's right.
So it takes time to get to the level that's equal to the guys' sports because they've been around for so long. But it will happen.
Yeah, I hope it does. But I was reading through some of Jan's stuff, and it just kind of made me think that because she was breaking some barriers back, in the 70s, early 80s.
Oh, wow.
And I was curious what she thought about, how things are going today.
Well, Jan Stevenson, her chapter is titled "Goal Set Your Way to Success." And Jan was a great athlete. At one point, she thought she would not play golf and be a surfing
really?
champion, and her her parents weren't too happy about that. But Jan, when Jan came to this country as a young, blonde, blue-eyed beauty from Australia, and she was winning as a rookie, and she was the face of the LPGA. And the LPGA commissioner back then, Ray Volpe, asked her if she would promote the tour and if he could use her to go to sponsorship meetings and to go to pro-ams and pose with with this football player and go on all these talk shows, all these late night talk shows. And so she did what she felt she had to do to help promote the LPGA, much to pretty much the scorn of a lot of her fellow golfers. They didn't like the fact that she was getting all this attention. And of course, it's somewhat controversial because at one point she posed nude, covered with Maxfly golf balls in a bathtub.
Right.
And that was a photograph that was used in a calendar. I've
seen other golfers imitate that since then, though.
Oh, yeah. So there were things back then that didn't go over like they might go over today. It was the 70s. And, but she did get criticized a lot, and she didn't think she would get into the Hall of Fame, she told me, because of all this controversy. And every year, Nancy Lopez, who's on the Hall of Fame committee, and Jack and Gary would call her, and every year she wouldn't get in. Then I think it was 2018, Nancy Lopez calls her, and Jan says, "Okay, Nancy, I know. I didn't make it this year." And Nancy starts tearing up. And she says, no, Jan, I want to tell you, you got in this year. And when Jan was telling me that story, I was, tearing up, because Jan Stevenson did so much for golf on and off the course. And I'm glad that she was rewarded, with the Hall of Fame honor. And, she's not well, unfortunately. She has cancer. Oh. So I'm sending prayers to Jan Stevenson, and hopefully she'll be okay. But boy, I just saw her at the Masters at the Golf Writers dinner, and I just hope she's going to be okay. But I'm just honored that she's in my book as one of the 12 legends, and she has so many great stories in the book about her career and the struggles that she went through. Yeah,
there's so many good stories in there. I'm kind of glad you only stuck with 12, but you could have easily doubled that.
Well, maybe that's my next project, Michael.
But there's so many other books to write.
I know there's so much to do. I have so many books in my mind, but they take a lot of time, as you can imagine.
My dad's favorite interview that you ever did was Ted Williams. That's his favorite baseball player. Wow. He considers him the best hitter ever. That's just his opinion. And he's not 100% wrong. I mean, he's on the short list of best ever.
He is. I mean, you know how I got that interview? I was golfing at a place called Black Diamond in Central Florida. Yeah. And I had found out that the Ted Williams Museum was somewhat nearby, and that Ted's son, John Henry, lived nearby. And I wanted to interview Ted Williams so badly, one of the ultimate legends in sport.
Yes.
And so I, after the golf, I found out where John Henry lived, and I knocked on his door. And his wife answered, and I introduced myself, and I gave her my business card. John Henry wasn't home, his son. And I said, "I would love someday to interview your father. Here's my card. Give me a call if that's possible." And do you know, a couple of days later, I got the call from John Henry, and he said, "If you can be in Boston the day of the All-Star game." Remember when the All-Star game was played at Fenway?
Yep.
In the 90s? And he said, "If you can be ready with your camera crew set up at 11 o'clock, he said, my dad will have just gotten up from his nap because his father was elderly and wasn't well. And he'll be sharp, and he'll give you the best material. But you have to be ready by 11. I said, "Done. Yeah. We will be ready by 11 with my camera crew." And I'm sitting in the chair, and in walks Ted Williams. And he's a tall, big guy, right? And it was like a mythical character walking into that room, that hotel suite. And that, to me, was one of my all-time most magical interviews, because we not only talked about, he's a baseball genius and a baseball scientist. We not only talked about baseball, but we also talked about he flew in the Korean War, and his co-pilot was the great John Glenn. And we talked about the fact that he's in the Fishing Hall of Fame. And so, with my interviews, similar, to what you're doing here, we talked about everything.
Yeah.
And it showed a different side of Ted Williams, and he was so proud that John Henry was the only one of his kids who actually went to college and got his degree. And John Henry was handling his business affairs at that point. And sadly, John Henry died a couple years after Ted passed away. And but I'll never forget how kind John Henry was in helping me coordinate that interview with his father.
What a great interview with that. My equivalent with that is I'm nerdy. Owned a couple comic book stores in the 90s. That's how I put myself through college.
I was wondering about your background.
That's where the background comes from. And so my person that I always wanted to talk to was William Shatner. That was who I wanted a chance to talk to. And I had my chance back in the 90s. I tried to get him to come into the store and sign autographs, but I was a poor college kid, couldn't afford to have him come in, so it never happened. So we started podcasting, and I just assumed I had some very nice conversations with his assistant, but I just never expected anything to happen with that. And I got a call one day. He was coming through town doing his one-man show, and he wanted a moderator. So he gave me a call. So I got to do it here at the Civic Center.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story.
Him just up on stage. So that was my big moment. But he did,
I love that.
Oh, it was the best. Like they show a Star Trek movie, Wrath of Khan, and then so the audience is watching that, and then he comes out and has an interview. Well, while they're watching Wrath of Khan, I was in the back having dinner, just the two of us. So we're back there having that, like just a conversation, not an interview, just talking. Sure. Which that part of the night, best part of the night. But then I got to actually interview him on stage.
Wow.
But with him, I asked 3 or 4 questions. He talked 20 minutes on each question. So that was it.
I know, right? That's like Gary Player. You ask him one question and he goes on forever, which is great. But let me ask you a question. When you sat down with William Shatner, just you and him, you weren't recording any of the interview, what did you learn most about him during that conversation? Anything surprise you, or
a little? So the thing that surprised me was it was just like having a conversation with somebody you'd run into anywhere. He was curious about how we got started on the podcast. He was asking about family. He loves dogs, so we talked about my son's dogs. He loves riding horses. We just had conversation about that stuff. It was just like talking with an elderly gentleman. As soon as he walks on stage, though, that's William Shatner. It was a completely different person.
Transformation, right? I love that. Isn't that the truth? I mean, performers know how to turn it on, and again, just like these golfers, he was focused on doing whatever he had to do that night on stage, and transformation personified.
He's in his 90s, and we didn't finish. I mean, we finished, but then, he lets everybody come up and get a picture with him. So it was probably 1:00 in the morning when he got done. He was driving 4 hours to Fort Wayne, Indiana from here by himself. That was his next show. And he left 1:00 in the morning, drove to Fort Wayne.
Oh my goodness. In the middle of the night.
Wait till the morning. He's got so much energy, even
that's awesome.
In his 90s.
He's like Gary Player. He must be doing sit-ups and push-ups every day.
He must. And thank you for taking a little bit of time with me. This has been a highlight for me. I'm such a fan of yours, have been for decades. And I meant what I said. I love your interview style. I think you always do such a good job of putting people at ease, which is something that I've tried to emulate.
Well, I really enjoyed it. You're doing a great job, Michael. I'm just honored to be on your show. So keep up the great work. I'm glad I could influence you. Back in the day when I started when I was 12. But we're both doing what we love to do. And I will continue as long as I can, Michael, because I'm passionate about interviewing people and being interviewed and telling people stories, telling stories at the Masters or at the US Open or the Olympics or the US Open tennis. It's what I'm passionate about. So hopefully you and I can continue doing what we're doing.
Right. It'll help keep us young.
Exactly.
So the book is Life on the Green, Lessons and Wisdoms from the Legends of Golf. There it is.
There you go. You can order it on Amazon.
That was my next question. Yep.
Life on the Green, Lessons and Wisdom from Legends
You
of
could
Golf.
be reading this book the day after tomorrow if you order on Amazon.
I know. It's amazing how quickly they get it on your doorstep, for sure.
Sometimes it comes the next day. I don't know how they do that.
Sometimes it comes the same day.
It does. I know. I don't know how they do it. And before I let you go, anything else that you're working on that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
Wow, I host the show Talking Golf on Sunday mornings on the Fan from 7 to 8 Eastern. You can also listen to it on Odyssey.com. And I'm thinking about writing another book. I have a charity golf event that I host every year to raise money for cancer research, and
that's coming next month.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's May 27th. That takes place this year. It's going to be at West Hampton Country Club on the east end of Long Island. We always do the tournament out there. We were at Friar's Head the last couple of years, Maidstone, Sabonic.
Wow.
We do move it around, but it's been a passion of mine to raise money and awareness for cancer research. As you know, I lost my dad to cancer when I was in college and my brother to leukemia. So, people can follow me on Instagram at the Ann Liguori. That's Liguori, and on Twitter and LinkedIn and
all the places.
Hopefully on Facebook. I'm going to try to get my Facebook was hacked, which is not good. And so I'm going to try to get that straightened out because that's been pretty distressing. But other than that,
I'll tell you that Facebook is not very helpful.
No, it is not. I take it you've had your own run-ins with Facebook.
I have had, and that's my not to go on a tangent, but my main issue with Meta or Facebook is that they do not do enough to protect the actual account holders. And I'm not saying that they need to protect you from getting hacked. Everybody gets hacked. But once you're hacked, they should do more to help you to get.
Well, you can't even get anybody on the phone.
No,
it's not good.
It's not good. It's not good.
They have no customer service. And, I'm a public person. You're a public person. This hacker was able to stay up there for weeks trying to elicit money from, my loyal fans and following. And it was so distressing. And and you can't do anything about it until Facebook responds, which takes too long. So something has to be rectified. What's that?
I said it takes so long because you're miserable because you're seeing everything that's happening.
And you can't do anything because you're blocked from doing anything.
Yep.
So just be careful out there, everybody. Hackers.
Guard your stuff.
I'm telling you, don't click on any links. Be very, very careful because it's become an epidemic out there. And every couple months I hear from a major company, whether it's Verizon or AT&T, that they were compromised. And how many of these huge companies have your personal information? So that's one of the big problems as well, where our country is not equipped to handle these huge cyber attacks. It's really a big problem now. And we really have a long way to go to be able to handle what's happening in our world in that area. It's very scary.
Maybe we need to write a book about that.
That would be a very important book for sure.
I think it would.
It's very necessary because it's a serious issue and I lived it, and
I've been through it too.
We don't know the ending of that, but hopefully it will end.
We're crossing our fingers.
Yeah, I basically deduced it to this: goodness over evil. So I'm hopeful that goodness will prevail.
I'm hopeful for you as
let's just kind of put it in its simplest terms there. So
be careful. Keep an eye out for us at the PGA.
Oh, I definitely will. I can't wait.
Yeah,
you'll love it. Your father will love it.
I think he's gonna have the best time, and he's been cracking me up. So I told you we went to the gym today. He's been doubling up on the treadmill because he's trying to get himself, ready to walk.
I love that. So now, who are you picking? I'll put you on the spot. Who are you picking to win the PGA Championship?
It's tough to go against Scotty. I mean, he's not quite as dominant this year as what he was doing last year, but he's a tough one to.
And he'll come out so ready after not being able to defend his title at the Masters. So that's a good choice.
Which event was it that he got arrested at last year? I was there.
That was a year ago, the PGA Championship in Louisville.
I was there. I was at
Gosh,
that one.
boy, that guy's had a crazy year for
We,
sure.
we went to that one and we were getting ready to come in that morning when all that stuff was happening. And, everybody on the course didn't even know if he was going to get to play that day.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You guys were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were there.
It was crazy. I mean, when I think of those sequence of events leading to his arrest and, the police didn't know who he was and, the banter going on in the car, if you saw that on Instagram. I mean, and they, of course, delayed the start of the championship on that Friday, and he was able to get back and play.
And
But oh
played
my God.
well.
Yeah, he played well that day, that Friday for sure.
Yeah.
But what a life these guys have,
I
right?
know.
It
All
is.
right, Ann, hang on one second. I'm such a fan of Ann Liguori. She is fantastic. If you're a sports fan, you already know who Ann is. I've been watching her for 40 years. My opinion, one of the best interviewers that we have out there. I think that she's terrific with everything that she does, and she's talked to everybody. I'm a baseball fan, but I'm also a basketball fan. I mentioned my dad was a basketball coach. Dad was the first person in the state of West Virginia from Putnam County to be all-state basketball, 1956 and 57. I know those stats. He was, those 2 years he averaged 27 points a game, and most of his shooting was from 3-point range, and they didn't have a 3-point shot back then. He probably averaged 40 if it wasn't. And he was an even better basketball coach. I mean, he's just a talented guy. I mentioned he's he shot in the mid 70s golf wise most of my life, and he still shoots in the low 80s. He just a heck of an athlete. Ann's book is Life on the Green, Lessons and Wisdoms from Legends of Golf, and it is loaded. We mentioned several of them. I love the stuff she wrote about Renee Powell, dealing with discrimination and racism most of her life. I thought that was just a really fascinating read, but the whole book's like that. And if she wanted to do like a whole series of those books, she totally could. But I hope my opinion, I'd love to see her move to baseball next, but we'll see. She does just amazing stuff with golf, and works at every major. She's there working. I hope we catch her at the PGAs this year. That would be a blast. It'd be a big deal for me, but maybe a bigger deal for Dad. He's such a fan of hers too. If I'm just running on at this point, I better move on. If at this point, if you're finding us for the first time, so happy that you're here. We're a small town, West Virginia, father and son podcasting team. That's not easy to do. Most of our interviews are with entertainment types, actors, managers, the producers, directors. We do talk to a lot of musicians, a lot of authors, some sports personalities. Most of our interviews are with entertainment personalities. That's not easy to do when you're in West Virginia, and they're mostly on the coast. So that's been a struggle, but we've done it. We're a top 100 IMDb podcast. I can't believe it, but here we are. And we would love to have your support, and it's free. We don't ask for any money. We just want your support. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. That's all you need to do. It doesn't cost a dime. Really does help us out. We take those subscriptions. That helps us to get these terrific guests. I would put our guest list up against any other podcast, talk show, anybody. I think we have had the absolute best guests. YouTube channel, MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. Our website's meistercon.com. You can find 953 and counting episodes, audio and video versions, both. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, like to the PGA championships, if we're covering a convention, anything we're doing, be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.